Good evening, everyone. I have a bit of a, shall we say, bad news, but these are currently already so much in the papers that I am not alone in this matter. When I say that we are unfortunately a little late with the climate change mitigation, but I'll come to the end of the presentation. In part on the subject of why, however, we should not throw away the hope, why we have hope, and why I believe that we will come to the challenge of climate change in time, and we can move forward. But a little bit of these bad news at the beginning, so we can get to the point. When we talk about climate change and energy transformation, so many times in public discussions, we focus only on emissions. Emissions are an important part. It is the other half of the coin. As important is also how much we can get rid of carbon in the atmosphere. When we talk about climate change, its mitigation and greenhouse gases, I prefer to use a number what quite many scientists use. It is the carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere. The red line that goes there, you can see how much it has risen here. These emissions, and also the carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere. Our emissions today are at 45 gigatons. And the carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere is somewhere around 15 ppm, and that is a lot. And it is constantly rising. Now, if we look at what should happen so that we can get to this 1.5 degree curve, where everyone is committed, of course, from state leaders to business leaders, and everyone else too is committed to this 1.5 degree target. The green line shows how fast our emissions should go down, and there is still a curve below that shows how much carbon dioxide should come at the same time. So that the carbon dioxide already in the atmosphere would still go back to the soil. This is the situation when it is shown as a curve. And the downhill is so low that such a target can always be set for sure, but unfortunately it will not be achieved. It is a completely impossible task, and I will show in a few slides why it's impossible. We have the situation that we have an excess of carbon in the atmosphere, about 200 to 300 billion tons. This does not say much for anyone, because a billion is already a big number with 9 zeros. Carbon has been released during the whole time of industrialization. Our whole life has been based on what we are today. The use of fossil fuels. Those of you who do not use cars or something else where fossil fuels are clearly identified, you still use fossil fuels in any encounter of your consumer behavior in everyday life. Oil has been available to us everywhere, and many other fossil fuels are available to us every day. Oil has made a small place in the world. We can move from one place to another. Our goods move. The whole world still moves with oil. 80% of the world's energy comes from fossil fuels. And that is a huge amount of energy that comes from fossil fuels. We should make a huge amount of investments. We should simultaneously sequester carbon from the atmosphere. We should reduce emissions. We should build renewable energy, especially renewable electricity, and in this case, in Finland, significantly wind. Globally, it is more based on solar panels. We need to improve our energy efficiency. Saving energy becomes more and more important. All of these things should be done simultaneously. It is a monumental task. Let's say that if someone is worried about a job or is thinking about where to start a career. Welcome to the energy sector. There is a lot of work for the next 100 years. The solutions that are needed here, we have a lot of solutions today that are being utilized, that are being used all the time. But it is also wise to say that we do not have all the solutions. In public, we do not deal with them much. They are complex, especially when we talk about what we lack. But in the public language, we can say that the most important thing that we lack is the storage of the electricity industrial scale. So when there is no wind, we still need electricity. But if there is no wind, no electricity, then it has to be taken from somewhere. And this is the bottleneck. There are countries like Finland, where our electricity consumption is also very variable depending on the season. And that is where we also need this kind of seasonal storage. And that is an even bigger challenge. Of course, we have water power here, especially Norwegian water power, which we can use. But the situation in Finland is very much about how things are in Finland when we need to get this big picture right. And that is where the solutions to our environment come from. Of course, we have some unique things that are only in Finland and nowhere else. But now that we are in an event of the bank, I will not talk much about this. But I will just say that the amount of energy that needs to be renewed in the future, if we can look at it from there, the latest situation is 2019. So we have 12 billion oil equivalent tons of fossil energy. So we would have to build 9 billion oil equivalent tons of renewable energy in 11 years. And this must be zero-emission energy. This is just kind of a task. A bit like I would say that now you should build a new house, that we will start today and tomorrow it should be ready. It just does not work like that. We need a huge amount of people, a huge amount of permits, a huge amount of innovation, a huge amount of various materials, and a huge amount of investment capacity and factors of production. It does not mean that we don't need to do everything possible, but we have to understand that we can't do it in the timeline. And talking about the timeline is important for many reasons. Before I start talking about those periods, talking about the timeline is important because when technology is constantly developing at the same time, new solutions are being developed. And in Finland, with this technology, we should not do massively more than what is being done elsewhere, because it can happen that in 5 years our technology where we have invested has already completely aged. Let's take this example. I have used this same example for the Committee for the Future of the Finnish Parliament. If we look at what our first wind turbines when they were built in Finland in 2009, the cost price was 58 euros per megawatt hour. 10 years later, the cost price in our wind turbines was 28 euros per megawatt hour. At what price would you have wanted to invest? 58 or 28? This is pretty much the question here. We also have to take time to see at what stage the new technology is. Is it ready for investment? How much should we do now? How much volume should we do? How much should we keep developing further so that we can get the cost down? In the end, we still have to remember that we live in a market economy. We have to be competitive all the time so that we can survive in the world, so that we can keep this welfare society going. You can't start this as an ideological exercise, but be viable as a business. In terms of the size of the International Energy Agency documents, as a field we have invested. There you can see bioenergy. We have invested $2,200 billion annually in 2016 to 2020. If we wanted to get to the level of 1.5 degrees, we would have to invest $4,900 billion by 2030. Someone might think that it is just double, but when it is in the billion, with the 9 zeros, and there is still a 4-digit number before that, when it is changed to projects, when it is changed to work that needs to be done. There are so many people in the world that such projects could never be done in such a time. And the developers know that. But when we have the pressure to present things in such a way that we can achieve this 1.5 degree goal of IPCC, which we can't achieve anyway, I think it would be much smarter and more honest to tell things as they were, and then also to the roadmap from fossil to renewable on a realistic basis. This way these investments would also be put where they really should be put at some point in time. This often leads to such a utopian goal setting that we put investments in the wrong places at the wrong time, so that a lot of money and resources go to waste, and wrong things are done. So, due to lack of time, I just mentioned this briefly. When we make these fossil fuels, our group does this right now. We build a biodiesel plant in Göteborg, Sweden. We have to do it when the law says so, but we know very well that, if we look at here, the proportion of these biofuels in the world is currently 140 million tons, and oil is used for 1.5 billion tons. And then, when you look at how much all kinds of different things need to be increased, these growth rates are completely incomprehensible. What needs to be done in time? And yet, what is done is barely noticeable. This does not solve anything. And the fact that we import cooking fat from China to Finland is not going to make the world a better place that much. But it is just an example of what needs to be done when the law says so. I would prefer to plant forest, for example, in Nepal. If there was an alternative like carbon sequestration, for example. I am now going pretty fast. I don't spend a lot of money, time on these things now. Well, I don't spend money either. But I'm going to finish now. Because the time was limited. We'll get to the panel and other discussions. I'll go straight to the summary. Because there are a few things I'd like to say. We really don't have too much time to waste. Now we have to do things. Talk less. We at the stone tree to do the maximum. What we can do with our resources. And this applies for anybody and everyone. Everyone can do small things. My children have taught me that no small thing is worth dissing. If someone does their own thing, for example, starts riding a bike or changes their diet or something else, they are all for good. Why are they important? Because they are important. And you also accept the harder tasks that you have to do when the costs are rising. Everyone can do something. In your life you can do small things. And they shouldn't be underestimated. We have to take care of this. They are important for shaping the public mood and opinion. Then we have to understand that we already have a lot of carbon in the atmosphere. Even if we would not release anything anymore, the climate change will continue. We have to get the carbon sink market going at the same time. That means afforestation. Finland has a lot of expertise in the forest sector. We have taken the best care of our forests in the world, say whatever. If we look at it internationally, this is a fact. That expertise has global demand. We can be much bigger here when we start talking about how much carbon can be captured from the atmosphere back to the soil. This offers us a lot of investment opportunities. Finns can develop the products that are needed in the future. Our companies can make them, and the carbon sink market will be there. There will be a lot of demand for these products. This is a clear thing. Maybe me time is up. But I have to say that synthetic fuel and energy storage are what we need as a very critical matter. Finnish companies can be part of the solution through the fact that innovation and new ideas are needed a lot.
Tämä innovaatiotoiminta ja uudet ideat, niitä tarvitaan tosi paljon
we can be much bigger for our size globally. What brings me hope? I will not talk about Africa today, but what brings me hope is how much people have made discoveries in the last 50 years.
Ihminen on keksinyt viimeisen 50 vuoden aikana. Se on keksinyt enemmän kuin koskaan.
They have come up with more than ever before in history. I am sure that people will come up with a lot of things in the next 50 years. We will come up with something that I know nothing about today. These new inventions will take us to the finish line. We will get the roadmap from this fossil world, and we will get to the bottom of this. No child nor anyone else needs to feel anxious. We will take care of this and bring it home. Thank you. Don't to go anywhere. I will tease you for a little while longer. It's so shocking when the clock turns red. Yes, panic. I had so much more to say. We have to stop now. We are not in a hurry. We still have time for dinner. I was talking about energy storage and the new innovations and business ideas related to it. Have you or others seen this sand silo from Polar Night Energy? A seasonal energy storage using hot sand, which we did in Kankan PAA. Is there anything here that Finland could use totally to conquer the world? I am completely confident that there are some reasons why it will be scaled. It means that it can be done around the world. There are some that are suitable only for a certain market area. For example, due to natural conditions. This sand example is probably just such that it fits well with the Finnish conditions. When we have winter and we just need the heat for a certain time, we can put it in there in the summer and take it out in the winter. It does not really benefit somewhere in the Sahara, even though there is a lot of sand there. You could say that it's not that cold there. You don't need street lights there either. I am here as an employee. I get to ask stupid questions because I am not an expert. I am just a national representative. I think that was a pretty good question. Maybe a future national representative. Hey, when you were talking about money, how will this change in fossil fuels? Renewables and electricity be seen in the consumer's pocket. At the moment, the energy price is in a sharp rise and a greater rise is still to be feared. This is one of the difficult things. In this current situation, there is a lot of bad luck. Many things have hit at the same time. And it has also given speculators some opportunities to drive up the prices. But it is not worth giving any false evidence. If we invest at that rate we showed, we talk about raising the investment level to $4,900 billion in 8 years. So someone will probably want returns for those invested dollars as well. They will not be invested otherwise. The consumer has to pay more. That is clear. The energy price will rise. And it is hard to see any other way out. And there are no other payers than customers and consumers. It's a pretty bad thing for Finland. We are so dependent on heating. This is probably a place for innovation. First of all, if the weather forecast for the climate change is true, we will have even more heat in the northern areas than elsewhere. The harsh winters, especially in the south, will disappear and the need for heating will decrease. Then there will be a need for cooling. But I believe that Finland has a special ability to manage a dark and cold climate. We have the best skills in all segments of the energy sector in every area. I believe that we will find those innovations and remain competitive in the future. Thank you.